On March 21, 1998, American inventor Stanley Meyer and his twin brother Stephen were having lunch at Cracker Barrel, a restaurant in Stringtown Road, Ohio, with two potential Belgian investors, when something unexpected and devastating happened. All of a sudden, after taking a sip of cranberry juice, Stanley grabbed his throat, stood up, and ran outside. Stephen rushed after him, and outside the restaurant, he found him down to his knees, vomiting intensely. Stephen asked him what was wrong, to which Stanley responded, "They poisoned me." That's it. Those were his last words. They were having a great time, talking about business, and then after a few minutes, his brother died in his arms. Stanley Meyer's death was investigated for 3 months, and it was eventually concluded that he died of a cerebral aneurysm. However, Stephen and many other people believe that he was assassinated to stop him from telling the world about his great invention, the water-powered car, and the overall concept of using water as fuel. He could have paved the way for free energy. If he was indeed killed, the perpetrator was never found. It was an unfortunate ending for a passionate, strong-minded man. Born on August 24, 1940, Stanley Meyer was a tall, charismatic, and persuasive man who was always determined to build something new. He was originally from Columbus' East Side area, but eventually moved to Grandview Heights, where he completed his education. He was a highly religious and innovative individual. Stephen said that as children, they were always building something and even created their own toys. He was a man of cutting-edge ideas. When he got older, he lived his best life, turning those ideas to life, and attributed his accomplishments to God's guidance. He became the owner of various patents, ranging from cardiac monitoring to oceanography and banking. Overall, Stanley Meyer applied for more than 200,000 patents. In 1989, the Patent Office placed him in the Fast Track program. This means that they lessened the scrutiny on his patent applications to save resources. His patents were usually approved 8 months after submission. 8 months was already a very quick time frame, since in general, the process takes more than a year. They believed that his applications and technologies were so ahead of his time. He was recognized by several scientific organizations, both in the US and in the international scene, and received incredible support from other countries like Sweden, England, and Canada. What's amazing about Stanley Meyer was that he wasn't only a man of science. He also has the mindset of an entrepreneur. Most of his works were solely funded, but he was determined to work more and find investors for his projects. Around 1975, 1 year after the end of the Arab oil embargo, he set his eyes on using water as fuel. The Arab oil embargo was when the OPEC, or the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, decided to stop exporting oil to the United States. It started in October 1973. 13 oil-producing nations, including Saudi Arabia and Iran, agreed to this embargo, targeting nations that supported Israel during the Yom Kippur War. It wasn't just the United States. Canada, Japan, the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, Portugal, and South Africa were also affected. By the end of the embargo in March 1974, the price of oil increased to almost 300%, setting off long gas pump lines and consumer anxiety. This oil shock presented long-term and short-term effects to the global economy. In the US alone, many corporations faced bankruptcy. The American automotive industry, which was known for producing big cars, also endured scrutiny as they were soon outpaced by Japanese manufacturers that created smaller and more fuel-efficient car models. In an interview, Stanley was quoted to have said that it became imperative that we must try to bring in an alternative fuel source and do it very quickly. He knew that something had to be done. The 1970s oil crisis pushed him to work harder and hasten his new initiative. Stanley then got to work and focused on developing a car that would be a game changer in the entire automotive industry. Based on his technical design called Water Fuel Cell, he started to create a hydrogen-powered vehicle, the first of its kind. His goal? To help him end the United States' dependence on oil and fossil fuels. There must be an alternative fuel source to prepare the US and the world for another oil crisis. Sources say that Stanley already started working on this decades before the oil crisis. He just sped up his work process because he felt the urgency to offer a solution to the problem. He claimed that this was a revolutionary beginning. Soon, cars would be powered by water alone. The red car, supposedly the first ever vehicle powered by water, was shown across the US. Everyone was curious about its invention. It was even featured on local TV channels. It appeared like every person who saw the car was amazed at how innovative the concept was. In an interview, he said the car would only use 83 liters of water to drive from LA to New York. Incredible. That's more than 40 hours of driving. Here he was with his popular invention. How does it work? In its simplest terms, the water is split into its component elements, oxygen and hydrogen. Then, hydrogen gas is burned to produce energy. This process already exists in the form of electrolysis, but electrolysis wouldn't reduce fuel costs at all. It's expensive, and an outer source should be able to provide electricity to sustain the process. But according to Stanley, his design would be able to split water into two components and successfully run an internal combustion engine using nothing but water. Just water. Stanley claimed his design can produce far more hydrogen than previously estimated. It was revolutionary. Well, not only revolutionary, but an idea that can completely destroy our current understanding of thermodynamics and energy conservation. Over the years, automobile manufacturers all over the world have designed different kinds of engines to limit the environmental impact posed by carbon emissions. Some cars run on natural gas, electricity, and ethanol. But this invention can run cars using the most unlikely energy source, water. I'm sure no one out there could have imagined the possibility of refueling the cars with a garden hose. When applied to the mainstream automotive industry, this mechanism can eliminate harmful emissions that pollute the environment and contribute to global warming. And of course, it can put an end to the United States and the entire world's dependence on oil and fossil fuels. The world wouldn't run out of oil anytime soon, but it's great to have an alternative. Water is no doubt the best alternative fuel, and the best part is, it can be found everywhere. A few months after the development of the water fuel cell design, legal problems came. Several allegations surfaced that his hydrogen-powered car was illegitimate and fraudulent. Several lawsuits were filed against his inventions. In 1996, 2 investors sued him. Because of these legal issues, authorities and experts needed to investigate to know the truth. It was said that the car was due to be examined by an expert witness when Stephen made lame excuses on the day of the examination. He didn't allow the tests to push through. Eventually, 3 expert witnesses examined his water fuel cell mechanism in court and concluded that there was nothing unusual at all about it. It was simply using traditional electrolysis. Stanley was then found to have committed gross and egregious fraud and was ordered to repay his investors. That ruling stained his reputation. People emphasized the fact that he had 0 qualifications as a scientist and that no independent scientists or reputable organizations confirmed that his design actually worked as claimed. The court, as well as other investors, accused him of money laundering. However, despite all that, people still defended him. Roger Hurley, a judge, said that Stanley wasn't a fraud and that he was a really nice guy. Now, going back to his untimely death, did he die from an aneurysm or was he poisoned? It doesn't matter whether he was a fraud or not. Why was he killed? Many conspiracy theorists still believe it was not an aneurysm. It was an assassination, and the root of all this was his water-powered car invention. It was said to have attracted lucrative buyout offers from many offshore companies, and because of that attention, the water fuel cell design became the center of state-sponsored espionage. Also, about a week after his death, the hydrogen-powered car was said to be stolen. It was a promising technology that can change the power balance in the world and can take away the strategic importance of the Middle Eastern and Russian oil fields. It was a threat to billions of oil industry dollars and staggering fortunes. This brings us to the idea that perhaps He was killed because his design might end sturdy economic relations, bringing billions upon billions of losses in oil-rich nations. Stephen suggested foul play due to the suspicious actions of the investors they met that fateful day. When he met with the two investors again the following day to let them know that Stanley died, they never said a word, nothing, not even condolences. However, Felipe van de Moertel, one of those investors, said that he had been supporting Stanley financially for many years, and he considered him a good friend. He said that them showing no sympathy at all was just a rumor. In this case, there aren't a lot of theories, just two. First, he was killed to suppress his inventions, and then second, he died of natural causes. Grove City Police Lieutenant Steve Robinette, the lead detective on the case, stated that Stanley had a history of high blood pressure and that he clearly died of a cerebral aneurysm. They checked everything and found nothing that can serve as evidence for poisoning. For one, the toxicology report came back spotless. That means that on the day he died, he had not consumed any toxic substance, not even alcohol. Years on, consumers are still looking for alternative fuels that can lessen environmental damages. Many of us are striving to fight climate change. Sadly, having a sustainable energy source is still a dream, despite today's top-notch technology. Without an alternative fuel source of some sort, Earth's climate crisis will only continue to deepen. Fortunately, Stanley Meyer's patents have since expired, so another expert out there can look into it, re-examine, fund, and improve it. It's time to resurrect the idea of having water-powered cars and pieces of machinery that can put an end to the disastrous toll the fossil fuel industry inflicts upon our planet. It's about time, right? So there, we'll end this video here. Another episode that ended in mystery. What's new? Have you ever heard about Stanley Meyer before watching this video? Do you believe that he was assassinated to suppress his invention and to continue oil's world dominion? If there's anything you want to share about this, please comment down below. Also, if there are other topics you want us to cover in the upcoming episodes, please let us know. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you loved it, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button. More interesting episodes to come. Make sure you never miss one by clicking the notification bell to get notified every time there's a new story. We upload new stories around 3 times a week, so we're always open for suggestions. See you guys soon.